Welcome back to Golden Fortune Leo, the place where astrology drops its crystal ball theatrics and talks like real life, with clarity, humor, and just enough philosophy to make your morning coffee feel like enlightenment. I'm your longtime researcher, someone who's spent decades studying the crossroads of psychology, astrology, and human behavior, that strange triangle where the stars meet social systems and the soul tries to make rent. Today, we're going to talk about what every Leo secretly craves but rarely admits out loud, the good stuff. The blessings that don't just glitter for a week and disappear, but actually stay, evolve, and root themselves in your daily life. This is your moment inside the Year of Triumph 2025, the phase where the universe stops testing your patience and finally starts rewarding your growth. You've already survived the lesson plan. Now comes the practical exam called receiving. The question is, can you handle peace as gracefully as you handled chaos? Let's find out. Every Leo knows what it feels like to burn too brightly. There are seasons when even your own fire feels heavy to carry. Maybe it was the emotional exhaustion of holding too much for too long, or the disappointment of realizing that the people you gave the most light to were the least equipped to reflect it back. But that cycle, Leo, is ending. The cosmic report card is in, and you passed, maybe not with perfect grades, but with soul-level distinction. This next phase isn't about reinventing yourself, it's about remembering the unedited version of who you were before the world convinced you to shrink. This is your quiet rebirth, the kind where the roar turns inward. Scorpio season, with its sharp honesty and winter chill, is your personal detox. You'll feel it as old habits, relationships, and anxieties fall away almost on their own. No dramatic endings. No moral speeches. Just gentle detachment, like your spirit uninstalling outdated emotional software. You may notice certain doors closing suddenly or people fading out with no explanation. Don't chase. Don't question. Those closures are divine firewalls. The universe doesn't delete what's meant for you, it just clears the cache so your new blessings can load properly. The Buddhists would call this non-attachment. Psychologists might call it emotional pruning. I call it cosmic housekeeping, a little messy, but necessary before the new furniture arrives. And speaking of arrivals, let's talk about love, that timeless Leo headline. This time, however, it's not about drama or declarations. It's about reciprocity. The universe is sending you someone who doesn't just admire your fire but carries their own matchstick with respect. This isn't love that demands constant performance. It's partnership that breathes. Someone's stepping forward soon with real emotional courage, the kind that doesn't need grand gestures or rehearsed lines. They're fluent in consistency, not chaos. They're not intimidated by your confidence because they've built their own. It could be a Scorpio, your fixed sign counterpart who mirrors your intensity, or another Leo who matches your rhythm and pride. But the astrological label isn't the point. What matters is that this connection feels karmically clean. No codependence disguised as destiny. No chemistry masking control. Just calm recognition. You'll know it's real when your nervous system stops bracing for impact. Here's the spiritual and psychological shift, you're moving from attachment to attunement. You used to crave reassurance, now you crave resonance. You used to audition for love, now you're inhabiting it. That's what real maturity looks like, emotional adulthood with just enough childlike wonder to keep things alive. It's also the secret behind Leo magnetism in this new era, still bold, still passionate, but grounded in self-respect rather than applause. Think of this season as your cosmic intermission. The crowd is silent. The stage lights dim. You, the star, are backstage, finally breathing. No makeup, no spotlight, just you, realizing the play continues whether or not the audience claps. That's liberation. And ironically, that's when the right people start clapping for real. As the year of triumph 2025 unfolds, your romantic and personal life will feel like a masterclass in subtle abundance. You won't chase fireworks, you'll choose campfires. You'll laugh with people who understand your humor, not compete with it. You'll flirt with peace instead of chaos. That's evolution. And yes, it's far sexier than any whirlwind romance could ever be. From a psychological standpoint, what's happening here is integration. After years of swinging between self-sacrifice and self-protection, you're learning balance, the middle path Buddha talked about, where joy doesn't need to shout to be real. Your confidence becomes quieter, your boundaries stronger, your empathy sharper. You realize that love isn't the prize, it's the mirror reflecting how deeply you've healed. The cosmic irony, of course, is that the moment you stop auditioning for affection is when the audience of the universe stands and applauds. That's when the soulmate appears, not as a savior, but as a witness to your wholeness. They don't complete you, they complement you. They don't drain you, they recharge you. You've learned the art of discernment, that beautiful ability to tell the difference between intensity and intimacy. And when that moment arrives, when your heart hums instead of roars, you'll understand what it means to be one of the chosen ones in the year of triumph 2025. It's not about being chosen by others, it's about finally choosing yourself without guilt. You've been through enough shadow work to know that light doesn't need an audience, it just needs alignment. So, as this new chapter begins, remember this: the good stuff isn't something the universe drops into your lap like a surprise package. It's something you grow into by refusing to settle for chaos. Your blessings have been circling you for months, waiting for your vibration to match their delivery address. Now, it finally does. Take this as your permission slip to relax. To trust that what's unfolding isn't luck, it's timing. To believe that peace isn't the absence of noise but the presence of understanding. And if anyone dares to tell you you've changed, smile and say, finally. After all, Leo, you were never meant to dim your light to fit into someone else's shadow. You were meant to remember that even when you whisper, the universe still listens. Reunions are tricky territory, especially for Leos, who live life with a bold heart and a sharp memory. The past never really disappears, it just waits in the wings, rehearsing its lines, hoping for a callback. And right now, the energy of reunion is in the air, but this time, it's selective. Think of it as a cosmic quality control inspection. Not everyone from your past deserves access to your upgraded life. You've changed, whether you've noticed it or not. You've learned that love without evolution becomes nostalgia wearing cologne. So, if an old flame reappears, don't be hypnotized by shared history or those romantic remember when moments. Watch behavior, not memories. See if they've grown, not just grieved your absence. Because let's be honest, you can't build a future on recycled apologies. A castle built from the same old bricks will collapse under the first storm. But if both of you have evolved, if time has made you wiser instead of bitter, then reconciliation can become a quiet peace, not a rerun of chaos. Here's a humorous way to look at it: Mercury retrograde, that cosmic troublemaker everyone loves to blame, is really just the universe's HR department running background checks on emotional applicants. It emails you old names, old faces, and asks, "Are you sure this still belongs on your team?" Some applicants will fail the interview. Some will still think punctuality is optional and emotional responsibility is negotiable. That's fine. You're not hiring anymore, you're recurating. Closure, after all, is not punishment. It's payroll for emotional labor already done. The raise comes in peace, not reunion. But while certain doors close permanently, others begin to open, and behind one of them is something you might have forgotten: the sound of hope. Not the sentimental, Pinterest quote kind of hope. The real kind. The kind that shows up as evidence, not fantasy. You'll feel it when something long delayed finally moves, when a problem that refused to budge suddenly loosens its grip, when the universe quietly returns what was withheld, as if saying, "You've earned this." Hope, in this sense, isn't optimism, it's recognition. It's when you finally realize the timing wasn't punishment, it was precision. Many Leos will feel this around December, a month humming with cosmic symmetry. What you've been nurturing finally ripens. Maybe it's a career goal, a relationship, or simply your sense of self. The relief won't come because life suddenly becomes perfect, it'll come because you stop carrying what was never yours to fix. That's when the nervous system, long clenched in defense, finally exhales. In psychological terms, it's the release that follows prolonged vigilance. In spiritual terms, it's the recognition that you were never behind, merely being seasoned. And in astrological language, it's Jupiter rewarding your endurance, not because you were patient, but because you stayed kind while waiting. Now let's shift to the tangible, the work, the grind, the thing that pays the bills and tests your ego. Professionally, this next chapter is about expansion, but not at the cost of your sanity. You've spent enough time in survival mode, waking up like a firefighter responding to alarms that weren't even yours. That era is over. The energy ahead is about sustainable productivity, that sweet spot between ambition and peace. You'll find yourself doing less but accomplishing more because you finally understand the difference between movement and momentum. You're not hustling to prove your worth anymore, you're letting your worth do the talking. A new job or project could appear that stabilizes you financially while expanding your creative or intellectual freedom. Some of you might start a business, launch a creative studio, or explore healing professions. Others may collaborate internationally, bridging cultures, ideas, or markets. The theme is simple: impact, not image. And here's the secret most people miss: the chosen ones aren't selected for luxury, they're selected for leadership. They're the ones who thrive by serving authentically, not performing superficially. When you focus on contribution instead of comparison, abundance stops being a chase and starts being a side effect. Psychologically, this career shift is a graduation from external validation to internal authority. Spiritually, it's karma balancing itself. Every time you showed up with integrity when no one was watching is now being tallied in your favor. You may even laugh at how effortlessly things begin to fall into place. The universe loves irony like that. And speaking of laughter, by late December or early 2026, you'll probably find yourself celebrating something, maybe a promotion, a relocation, a creative milestone, or simply a major emotional release. Don't be surprised if you're invited to what looks like a farewell party but feels more like a coronation. Because the truth is, you're not leaving something behind, you're being upgraded out of it. The old version of you, the one who tried too hard, over-explained, overgave, and overanalyzed, is retiring. You've earned this ceremony. It's not a sad goodbye. It's a commencement speech delivered by your higher self. In that moment of celebration, something subtle shifts inside you. You might feel gratitude instead of exhaustion, pride instead of defensiveness. You'll catch yourself thinking, almost with disbelief, "I handled that well." That right there, that calm self-respect is the quietest form of wealth. No tax, no inflation, no external approval required. It's the spiritual equivalent of compound interest. The more you honor it, the richer your peace becomes. There's a practical angle here too. These endings, whether emotional or professional, will open space for new beginnings that match your frequency. You'll stop trying to resurrect dead situations and start nurturing the ones that breathe back. The farewell isn't punishment, it's permission. You're not losing people or opportunities, you're reshedding misalignments. The Buddhists would call it detachment, psychologists might call it individuation. I call it wisdom with a sense of humor. Because truly, Leo, your life right now is one long cosmic punchline. The situations that once felt tragic will soon read like well-written irony. The person who ghosted you taught you discernment. The job that rejected you redirected you. The dream that delayed itself matured into something more sustainable. If you can laugh at the plot twists, you've already won the genre. As this cycle closes, you stand somewhere rare, a blend of strength and softness, courage and calm. You're not chasing purpose anymore, you're practicing it. You're not asking for signs, you're embodying them. The good stuff isn't just coming, it's catching up to you, gasping, saying, "Finally, you slowed down enough for me to find you." So, celebrate this phase like the dignified fire sign you are. No grand gestures required. Maybe a quiet toast, a road trip, a journal entry that simply says, "I did it." Because you did. You walked through the storm without losing your warmth. You closed doors with grace instead of drama. You turned waiting into wisdom. And that, dear Leo, is the ultimate form of abundance, peace earned through growth, joy unmarred by ego, and love that hums rather than explodes. The universe doesn't hand that out freely. It's reserved for those who lived through their lessons and still had the humor to laugh at them. You, apparently, passed with distinction. When the conversation turns to roots, Leos tend to perk up. After all, for a sign known for blazing forward, looking back can feel like foreign territory. Yet 2025 invites exactly that, a homecoming of the soul. The grounding energy surfacing in your chart isn't about settling down in the dull sense, it's about anchoring into meaning. Many Leos will rediscover ancestral stories, cultural traditions, or family connections that shift how they understand belonging. You might stumble across an old letter, a relative you didn't know existed, or a story that reframes your entire lineage. These aren't coincidences, they're reminders that your strength didn't begin with you. It was inherited, refined, and now it's your turn to carry it forward consciously. But under the poetry lies a practical gift, financial stability. After years of emotional volatility tied to your bank balance, this is the season when money stops dictating your mood. You're learning to treat finances like a well-trained pet rather than a wild animal. Feed it regularly, don't chase it through the woods, and it'll stay loyal. Some of you will reach this grounding through career breakthroughs, promotions, or side ventures that finally start paying off. Others will achieve it through something subtler yet rarer, emotional discipline. The ability to feel secure regardless of what's in the account. That kind of peace is the real wealth, the kind you can't deposit, but everyone notices when you walk into a room. There's also a material layer to this story. Expect opportunities for long-term investment, property, inheritance, or financial partnerships that expand your foundation. For a few lucky Leos, even a sudden windfall might arrive, though luck here looks suspiciously like divine math. When your actions align with integrity, the universe's accounting department tends to respond faster than a tax refund. This isn't get-rich-quick energy, it's get-real steady energy. Beyond money, this grounding phase reconnects you to the earth beneath your ambition. You begin to see that stability isn't the opposite of freedom, it's the soil that allows freedom to bloom. Buddhists might call it mindful presence, psychologists call it secure attachment to reality, and I'd call it maturity with flair. You start budgeting time, emotion, and attention like a grown-up, yet you still manage to make it look cool. That's Leo magic, even responsibility looks good on you. Then comes the deeper calling, the awakening of the healer. By now, life has handed you enough pain to qualify for several honorary degrees in emotional resilience. You've been the one who kept smiling while bleeding internally, the one who offered advice you secretly needed to hear. Congratulations, you've passed your initiation. The mystic healer energy that follows isn't about fixing everyone else, it's about transmuting your own wounds into wisdom that helps others. You're not chasing healing anymore, you're irradiating it. Whether you're a doctor, therapist, teacher, artist, or simply the friend everyone texts at 2 a.m., your energy becomes medicine. Not in the sugar-coated love and light sense, but in the "I've been through it, so I get it" sense. People will start to feel safer around you, not because you have all the answers, but because you've stopped pretending you do. That's authenticity, and in the year of triumph 2025, authenticity becomes the highest currency. Some Leos will channel this energy into spiritual or creative entrepreneurship. You might start a coaching practice, a wellness brand, or a passion project that merges your compassion with your competence. Whatever form it takes, you're no longer selling a product, you're resharing a frequency. The very air around you feels like permission for others to heal. It's ironic, really, you spent years trying to prove your worth, and now your worth proves itself in silence. And as your inner equilibrium strengthens, abundance begins to flow not as a miracle, but as a natural consequence. Infinite abundance isn't a lottery ticket, it's a feedback loop between what you give and how you grow. The cards point toward prosperity that sticks because it's built on alignment, not exhaustion. Opportunities, love, recognition, and financial expansion will appear when you stop sprinting toward them. It's not irony, it's energy management. When you stop gripping outcomes, your hands are free to receive. The Buddhists call this right livelihood, the Stoics call it virtue in motion, and I'd call it Leo finally mastering the art of monetizing authenticity. You're no longer hustling for applause, you're rebuilding systems that reflect who you are when no one's watching. The universe loves that level of honesty. It can finally trust you with bigger responsibilities because it knows you won't trade integrity for instant gratification. Which brings us to transformation, the quiet kind that doesn't need a montage or background music. The phoenix metaphor fits, but not because you're rising dramatically from ashes, more because you've realized you were never the fire victim. You were the flame all along. The difference this time is in your internal weather. Challenges don't send you spiraling anymore, they invite you to improvise. You've cultivated what psychologists call resilient confidence, the ability to bend without breaking, adapt without losing essence. That's the mark of mastery. When something goes wrong now, your first thought isn't "why me," but "what's this teaching me?" You laugh faster, recover quicker, and spend less energy proving your point. Your sense of humor becomes a sign of spiritual health, proof that you no longer need the world to make sense in order to feel safe within it. You even start enjoying your own company, which once terrified you. Solitude shifts from punishment to privilege. You stop chasing validation and start curating peace. And here's the beautiful irony, once you hit that level of calm, the universe floods your inbox with opportunities. New homes, new relationships, new creative ventures, new rhythms, all arriving not as surprises, but as confirmations. You're not reinventing yourself, you're reinstalling peace. You've debugged the emotional code that once caused all the glitches. Astrologically, this marks the beginning of your true north era, the point where external success aligns with internal serenity. Philosophically, it's the middle path Buddha described, where discipline meets delight, where you act without attachment, love without possession, and lead without ego. Socially, it's the kind of confidence people trust instantly, the blend of warmth and strength that makes others feel safe enough to evolve beside you. So, what does it all mean? It means the Leo archetype, the lion-hearted, big-spirited, occasionally dramatic but always sincere, is maturing. You're no longer roaring for recognition, you're humming with purpose. You've realized that the real stage was never out there. It was inside you, lit by awareness, powered by gratitude, and directed by wisdom. The good stuff ahead isn't just material, it's multidimensional. Financial calm, emotional balance, spiritual fluency. You'll laugh more, sleep better, and worry less, not because life stops challenging you, but because you've learned to dance with the tempo instead of fighting it. The Year of Triumph 2025 doesn't crown you for winning, it honors you for mastering the rhythm. And as far as cosmic comedy goes, that's the universe's favorite punchline: the moment Leo stops chasing light and realizes they've been the sun the whole time. Let's talk about the Leo identity, the one everyone thinks they understand but rarely does. Leos are often labeled as vain, loud, attention-hungry creatures basking under imaginary spotlights. But that's a lazy reading of a complex script. Real Leos know their confidence isn't arrogance, it's armor. It's what happens when you've fought through years of self-doubt and decided to shine anyway. That pride people misinterpret as ego is really endurance disguised as glamour. The truth is, you don't crave attention, you crave recognition of your sincerity. You don't want applause, you want accuracy. You want your effort to be seen for what it is: heartfelt, disciplined, and loyal to the core. This next chapter, the Year of Triumph 2025, finally reflects that truth back to you. The world is catching up to who you've always been. You no longer need to explain yourself, water down your brilliance, or apologize for existing at full wattage. You're not performing anymore. You're just being. And that, ironically, is what makes you magnetic. This new cycle of your life is about reclaiming your light without apology. No more shrinking to fit smaller rooms. No more overgiving to people who only offer breadcrumbs of appreciation. You've earned the right to live expansively, to occupy emotional and creative spaces that once felt too big. You've spent years auditioning for peace, now peace is the one auditioning for you. You're entering a season where authenticity does the heavy lifting. You don't chase validation, you radiate certainty. Even your silence will start speaking louder than your words. And, as always, when Leos get their inner world right, love follows. The romantic forecast splits in two clear paths. Some of you will reconcile with someone who has grown up spiritually and emotionally. This won't be a rerun of old drama, it'll be a sequel written with emotional literacy. The dynamic feels like a familiar melody but with better lyrics this time. You'll sense maturity in the way they communicate, the way they show up without the need to control or convince. They'll match your healed pace, not your wounded rhythm. For others, an entirely new soul enters your orbit, someone who mirrors your calm confidence, someone whose quiet steadiness feels like home. You'll recognize them not through fireworks but through an eerie sense of déjà vu, as if you've met before but needed this version of yourself to finally meet them properly. And for those revisited by an old flame, remember this: not every return means rekindling. Sometimes an encounter from the past is simply life's way of closing a loop. Closure can be the love story's final, most necessary chapter. Peace itself is sometimes the prize. Once the heart finds balance, the rest of your life starts to move in harmony. The Chariot card represents that shift: movement, freedom, direction. After months of stagnation, you're back in motion, but this time with purpose. Travel is highly favored: new destinations, relocations, even spontaneous road trips that reset your mental compass. If you've been daydreaming about ocean air, that's no coincidence. A short getaway might restore your intuition faster than a year of overthinking. The universe doesn't reward the busiest, it rewards the readiest. And you, Leo, are ready. Ready to step into a rhythm that's no longer frantic but fluent. This forward momentum leads to something far more significant than a career win or romantic breakthrough. It leads to self-mastery. Many Leos will look back on the past few years and realize just how often they were their own obstacle. Self-sabotage wears many disguises: perfectionism, overcommitment, even constant helping of others at your own expense. That cycle ends now. The Year of Triumph 2025 isn't about doing more, it's about doing better with less effort, less resistance, and more awareness. The transformation shows up in small, measurable ways: how you communicate, how you spend, how you sleep. You start noticing that your external life reorganizes itself the moment your inner life does. You'll laugh at how simple it was all along. Your soul was just waiting for new management. And when you finally feel that internal upgrade, you'll sense the universe celebrating with you. The energy of completion and victory arrives, not in fanfare but in quiet acknowledgement. Imagine the cosmos humming the Dora the Explorer jingle. You did it, and yes, it's both ridiculous and accurate. You survived the hardest season of your life without losing your warmth. That's not survival, that's evolution. From a psychological standpoint, it's self-actualization. From a Buddhist lens, it's karma maturing into grace. You've learned that faith isn't passive waiting, it's disciplined trust. Every time you chose integrity over convenience, every time you kept showing up even when the applause stopped, that was the training. Now the rewards start to surface, not as miracles but as evidence. The abundance coming your way isn't random luck, it's interest accumulated from years of inner investment. The universe isn't granting you favors, it's settling debts owed to your persistence. Love, peace, opportunity, they all begin orbiting around you now because you've stopped chasing them. You attract by becoming. You don't seek validation, you embody clarity. Your new relationships feel nourishing, not depleting. Your new work feels purposeful, not performative. Your new self doesn't need convincing. And here's where humor saves you, as it always does. When someone questions your glow or accuses you of being too much, just smile and say, "That's okay. I'm solar powered." You've reached a point where you no longer negotiate your light for anyone's comfort. You understand that being radiant isn't arrogance, it's responsibility. The world is dim enough without you pretending to be a nightlight. So, Leo, consider this your final message and your permission slip. You did it. You crossed the invisible threshold between effort and ease. You've stopped building your life from fear and started shaping it from faith. The storms didn't break you, they revealed your architecture. From now on, live as though joy is your default setting. Sleep well, love deeply, and when life gets heavy, remember that even the sun takes a few hours to rest before rising again. Your forecast for the Year of Triumph 2025 is simple but profound. You no longer chase what's meant for you. You magnetize it through your integrity, your humor, and your steady refusal to shrink. The good stuff you've been waiting for isn't on the way, it's already here, orbiting in perfect timing, waiting for your stillness to let it land. And before you go, if this message resonated with that lion heart of yours, share it. Like the video, leave a comment about what part of your transformation feels the most real right now, and subscribe to Golden Fortune Leo. This channel exists for people like you, the ones who lead with courage, love with honesty, and laugh in the middle of their own plot twists. Because life doesn't reward the perfect, it rewards the brave. And you, Leo, have always been both.